also a set of propositions.
Sure.
Yeah, you're not really.
All right, so if it's going to be a set of
the epistemology itself doesn't correspond to reality. The epistemology is a thing we've made up like a language.
Well, I mean, I agree that I think phonetic script languages are definitely made up.
All languages.
And logical languages, though, I take to be, discovered.
No, logical languages are invented. Like I said, I exist, I think, therefore I am, and then I make up language to describe that. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, classical logic, very first sentence, logic is a formal language consisting of semantics and something, something, something.
Yeah, it's a formal language.
Yep, made up by humans.
Well, the notations are.
Yes, so logic is a language that describes reality, like English. Languages have three essential types of sentences. One is one that corresponds to reality, one is one that does not correspond to reality, and one that is self-contradictory. So for example, in English, I can see that is a tree. That sentence corresponds to reality. Or I could say that is a Klingon. That sentence does not correspond to reality. And I can say that is a married bachelor. That sentence is self-contradictory. Math and logic both have the exact same things. A sentence that corresponds to reality would be like 1 + 1 = 2 or A = A. A sentence that does not correspond to reality would be like 1 plus, or what is F = ma times 47. That would be a good example of a mathematical sentence that does not correspond to reality. And something that's self-contradictory would be like 1 + 1 = 7, or A does not equal A, or something. So all languages, math, logic, English, all have those three kinds of sentences: those that correspond, those that do not correspond, those that are self-contradictory. They're all languages made up by humans.
It's curious that mathematical propositions are going to be the kind of thing that corresponds to reality. If they do, how do we know if they do?
All languages can correspond to a tree. That sentence corresponds to reality, just like 1 + 1 = 2 corresponds to reality. There's no difference there.
So what reality do they correspond to if they do, since they do?
The only one, the reality is the reality they correspond to.
I feel like you're not, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I feel like you're just not like asking substantial questions. You're just like, just fucking just.
Yeah, how do you escape like relativism, runaway cultural relativism or something like that?
Cultural relativism has nothing to do with epistemology. That has to do with politics. Like, what?
You don't think that cultural relativism has anything to do with morality and ethics, for instance?
Sorry, I didn't mean to have this happen.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, you don't think morality and ethics have to do with epistemology?
I'm a moral realist. I think morality is objective. I'm not a relativist. That's how I escape it.
So if terms and mathematical propositions refer, which I take it that they do.
I was kind of asking, like, what would be your objection to it? I mean, you just stated that
I think
you're just something else.
I think morality is objective. I think it's not relative or subjective.
Right, but earlier you told me that you think that we merely impose meaning.
Hello. I was told to. Hey there, guys. I don't have a great deal of time. I didn't just found out about this, and somebody told me to jump in and debate TJump. I don't know what I'd be debating. Yeah, I've seen some of his modern day debates. And
how's it going? Nice to meet you.
How's it going, sir? How I appreciate well some of your debates. There's some debates where I'm like, yeah, that guy's spot on, and there's others where I think we differ, but that's okay. Differing is that happens, especially if you get to know nearly every topic that someone has an opinion on. Usually you're going to disagree strongly with them sooner or later, right?
Yeah, it's very rare that I find a person who is exactly like me and I agree with about everything. It's not too often that occurs.
So, I mean, I guess I'll just ask a follow-up question on what I heard. And you'll have to excuse me because, I mean, I do listen to kind of some philosophical discussions and whatnot, but I have sort of like a poor memory sometimes for certain terminology. And I guess I'll just ask. You say that you don't. You believe that there's an objective reality, and that our society, culture. So basically, what you're saying is that if we were in some sort of societal vacuum, morals would still kind of be the same as you see them now, relating to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think
Go for
morals are a higher order emergent property, like fitness. So fitness is a thing independent of humans. It's the ability for certain organisms to survive in more environments. That is an objective quality of reality. It's independent of human minds. If human minds didn't exist, there would still be fitness. Morality is the same kind of a thing, a higher order emergent property. Where fitness describes like how organisms can survive an environment. Morality describes how organisms can interact in an environment. So this is, you can search moral naturalism on Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy if you want a better definition, because I don't have it all memorized, but that's essentially the position, that morality is a higher order emergent property like fitness.
And do you think that morality has the capability of like shifting over time due to like for instance, okay,
Yes.
I think when it comes to let's say like uh, what's the term, not pedophilia, but I guess situations in which adults are having some sort of relations with minors, meaning somewhere between like 14 to 18. I think that that's somewhat morally objectionable. However, hundreds of years ago, or maybe even thousands of years ago, in which the life expectancy was far shorter for human beings, I could understand how maybe some people who reached their 20s would have, would reproduce with people people of childbearing age.
Right, when the life
So
expectancy was like 25. Yes, there's definitely moral progress. So yes, societies do have moral change over time, and just like science has change over time, but that doesn't mean the scientific world we're describing isn't objective. So even if our subjective interpretation of morality is definitely socially constructed, I think there is an objective thing there that we are referring to, which is the higher order emergent property like fitness. So yes, our current conception of morality as whatever we think is right or wrong is a social construction, but it refers to something objective, just like science refers to something objective, even though our particular scientific models may be socially constructed.
do you prescribe to the idea that, among other people, Sam Harris puts forward,
Nope.
that we can more or less scientifically determine certain things that are right or wrong, or like morally?
Well, I disagree with
And
Sam
I mean,
Harris.
and correct me if you think that I'm kind of not just explaining his stance on the subject. I think you probably understand what I mean here.
Yeah. So Sam Harris says that we can discover morality by looking at brain states and saying if our well brain is going to correspond to some brain state, and we can discover it that way. I would not agree with that. No.
Yeah,
So
neither
I
do I.
would say that morality can potentially be empirically tested. Like, for example, if you could make novel testable predictions and say, if I have this theory of objective morality, like if it's a law of nature or something that affects our brains like gravity, and we can potentially do some tests, then yes, morality could be empirically tested in that way. Or if it's a higher order emergent property, I don't know how exactly you would empirically test like fitness, exactly, just like description of how things interact in the environment. So I think that's kind of like what morality is a description of how agents interact within an environment. So
Okay.
potentially, I think it could be testable.
Well, let me ask another follow-up question. In this, I'm guessing this is something that you may have covered, but I just got here, so I'm curious. How do you determine what is and is not moral? Like, do you have some sort of system in order to do that?
Yeah, so I look at moral intuition and moral progress. That's what most philosophers do. That's the evidence of morality, the things, the phenomenon of morality we're trying to explain. I look at those things, I try to find the pattern in them, and I think the pattern is a principle that I say any involuntary imposition of will is immoral. That's the pattern I've come to. And so that's my conclusion of what morality is, and then I use that to try to make predictions. And if I get the predictions right, that would be evidence.
What I'm trying to square here, and I guess maybe maybe you've explained it and I just didn't quite chew it over well enough. But let's take the issue of veganism. Okay, I'm not a vegan. I do personally think that they, in spite of the fact of not being a vegan, I'll admit that I think that they have a pretty strong moral argument. But let's say several years, decades from now, we have a method of eating meat that, or synthetic meat that is absolutely, just every bit as nutritious, perhaps even more so, and tastes exactly like the meat that we have. I think in a circumstance like that, and then also provided that it was cheap, easy to access, and not expensive. Do you think that there
Yeah, I
would
think
be a shift in morality on that, in a sense, on that?
there already is a shift in morality. We're seeing it all over the world that, yeah, as resources become more plentiful and we can allow for more things that have consciousness to live without us intentionally killing them, our entire society will start to see those things as having moral worth. So as the measure of moral progress is as a society has enough resources to allow the people who are seen as marginalized groups, less valuable in society, to live without it damaging the society, then their moral worth will be seen as more valuable by the society, that's how moral progress works. So as our society continues to grow and we gain more and more resources, it means that more people in society are going to start to acknowledge the pain of animals and see that the pain we do to them is immoral and we shouldn't do that anymore. Absolutely. It's going to increase more and more as we continue to progress in our technological advancements, for sure.
Sure. Some guy with with an avatar that has I forget his name. It's definitely a white supremacist. Jared Taylor just DM'd me and said, "Stop stuttering, please." I'm sorry, dude. Sometimes I stutter, especially when I'm very tired. That's just something that I do. So you can fuck off, especially because it looks like
Well,
you are.
no, I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not even white.
Okay.
Yeah, well, then why do you have an avatar of Jared Taylor? I'm just saying, like, you're being an asshole, okay? Like, some people stutter. It's something that I've dealt with my entire life, and that's a really obnoxious thing to just write someone and say, "Stop stuttering, please." Okay, so screw you. Sorry, TJump. That sort of like kind of just set me off a little bit, and
Yeah, no problem.
yeah. Anyhow, I don't know. I mean, I know people said that they would like me to debate you. I don't know exactly what we would debate over. There may be some differences between. Oh, I thought TJump was an atheist.
Maybe like you actually play your persona of the cat versus me or something.
I'm not always.
Voter fraud is good. Voter fraud is good.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be just so everyone here knows, the channel is going to be lately, for those of you who haven't checked in on CC, the channel that is, I have been doing more and more stuff as myself.
Krill, suck my balls. I don't care about this. Oh, hey, Creationist Cat. I actually like your content. Bye. Sorry.
Okay, all right. So anyway, yeah, I won't go way into that. I'm just letting everyone know that the channel is changing to Hey It's Vadim pretty soon. So
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, TJump, are you an atheist?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, so I don't know if there is much difference there. I guess this is the only thing that I can think off the top of my head that maybe you and I can just discuss very briefly, because I don't have a lot of time. I've seen several of your debates, and I did see one, maybe you've done more than one. I believe it was with Papa Bird Jake from Jake and Hannah on BLM. And right. And let's say, for the sake of the argument, that what you have.
You cut out. I can't hear you.
he was suppressed by the Democrats.
Probably.
Problems.
This is the fruits of a Biden presidency right here.
All right, I have a question for TJump on his moral system.
Okay, well,
Did we move on to another topic?
Well, he got back for a second and then he refreshed. He was talking and then he left.
Okay.
hello?
Are you back, Creationist Cat?
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know if that was a problem on my end or if somebody like kicked me somehow.
I don't
But,
think anybody kicked you. 'Cause, but yeah, you cut off right after you said Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter, and you said something like, "If we assume you're," and then cut out.
Oh, okay. If we assume that you're correct on, because inside that conversation, the thrust of it was just you guys talking about, I believe, like police shootings, but there are other problems with the justice system that affect disproportionately the Black community, like for instance sentencing. There are studies
absolutely.
that
So I totally agree. Like one of the biggest examples is the stopping people on highways. There's a disproportionate amount of stopping like African Americans during the day, and that disproportion goes away during the night. I absolutely agree that there are definitely systemic issues that are racist. I just think the one that Black Lives Matter has centered around, the shootings from police officers, I don't think that one is. That one's a bad example. So I think that using that as an example is more showmanship that I disagree with. I think it's not supported by the facts, but there are definitely lots of examples that would be supported by the facts that I would support Black Lives Matter on.
What do you guys disagree on? Wait, so hold on. So wait, why did you initially have this line of inquiry? Like, do you think TJump is a Republican, or like, what are you trying to do?
No, I mean he was very opposed to it seemed rather opposed to Black Lives Matter in several respects, and I'm not saying that I don't know what his politics are outside of that one conversation. That's about as political a conversation as I've heard him have. So I mean I happen to think that I agree with you. See, I do wish. What?
Well, let's just ask him real quick though, so everyone knows what's going on. TJump,
I'm a centrist. Like I'm a centrist, so I have my own political theory. I agree with the Democrats on some things, Republicans on some things, and Libertarians on some things, but they're all wrong about most things. So yeah, what was would you wanted to follow up on that, Creationist Cat, on my answer?
Yeah, you can call me Vadim, by the way, if you want. Yeah, I just, because I think that the conclusion that you came to is that Black Lives Matter is kind of maybe irrelevant is the wrong term, but just rather like not doing. Why don't you clarify? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Like, can you succinctly say how you feel about Black Lives Matter as like an entity, like you do not support Black Lives Matter? Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, but the main reason I don't support them is because their flagship issue is just, I think, factually false. Like the same reason I don't support Christianity. Jesus didn't rise from the dead. I mean, Christianity does lots of good things for people too. They also do lots of bad things, but I don't support them mainly because their main thing is false. So that's
do you recognize
matter.
At the same time, though, you do recognize that. I mean, you said something about, maybe I think you used the word showmanship. I like personally, I wish that there was a way to kind of galvanize America and get them to center on these issues, like more important issues. That, I mean, not that the police shootings are not an important issue to me, but for instance, the sentencing of blacks, like there are studies that show that you can have someone with the same record, even I think close to the same economic background, and much more of the time they will receive stiffer sentences, and things like that are injustices that they face that are really detrimental to their to Black culture in general. And I could name other things, but there's a handful of things that I could name that make for me that makes Black Lives Matter an important cause, I guess, if you will. So, I mean, like, do you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are
Do you think
definitely
if they were championing those issues more, that you would be more on their side?
Definitely. If they were supporting the things that are really like evidentially supported by all of the evidence we have, definitely I'd be behind them. The only reason I don't support them is because this one main issue doesn't seem to be supported by the evidence. And the fact that they're pushing it seems dishonest to me, because you're right, it definitely galvanizes people. That's for sure. But I think it's dishonest in the way that they're doing it. And that's the issue I have with Black Lives Matter. I don't think their main issue corresponds to reality, but there are definitely lots of examples that do, like the sentencing issues, or the fact that more African Americans are pulled over in highways during the day and doesn't happen during the night. There are lots and lots of cases of real racism for sure. I just don't think that their main issue is the right one. And I think if they were really genuine about stopping police violence, they would be equally as up in arms about the white Americans that are shot and killed in the exact same way as the African Americans who are. And I think that they're not portraying or focusing on that as much is something I see as not as honest as it should be. So my main issue with Black Lives Matter is pretty much just their flagship one doesn't seem to be as honest as it should be. There are lots of cases they could definitely use.
Is it dishonest to dwell on that issue, though, if there are a host of historical and historical issues that kind of and you'll have to apologize, because usually when I debate, I prepare for it and I'm just kind of spitballing here. But in my mind, there are all these kind of socioeconomic factors that make the of course, blacks could commit more crime, but there are reasons for these, and most of these things are things that over time can be addressed and corrected. And so do you think that like it has no relevance to bring that up if there are issues that we can address and correct and look at and hopefully make policies that better them?
No, I would agree that there are lots of issues we can fix, but I think that those issues affect both white and black people equally, essentially. And so they're like, ending the war on drugs would be a huge benefit to everyone, essentially. And I think we should definitely try to end it. But I think that my issue is when you say this disproportionately affects African Americans and discount the fact that it's killing twice as many white people in the exact same way. I don't think that's an honest way to approach the topic.
When you say, do you mean per capita?
Yes. So by population compared to crime rates, not to population. So,
Okay.
So if the crime rate is like African Americans commit 37.5% of violent crime, and they're 37% of the victims of police shootings, essentially. So it's exactly proportional. I don't think that's evidence that the police are racist. There are definitely things that do count as evidence the police are racist, like the thing you mentioned, but that isn't one of them. So that's why I disagree with that particular point that they keep bringing up.
Okay, cool. Well, certainly if I was prepared and kind of had, because I've never debated this topic before, it's something that I would be interested in debating, but it's just not something that usually I kind of have a process where I take notes and I just really study things. And I feel like with most of it's been an interesting conversation. I know that there's a lot of people here who want to talk to you. Some people are probably ticked off that I've stuttered. So I'm going to kind of just give the floor back over to everyone else. Maybe one day we'll get a chance.
Thank you.
Have a more effective conversation on a topic that I prepared, but it's been nice just kind of just shooting the shit with you.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
Well, okay, so creation.
Yes.
So creation.
You guys
Creation. So Creationist Cat.
That alt-right guy who's about to
I'm not delusional. Be quiet for a second. So.
I'm gonna mute him for a second. Vidium, it was really nice to meet you, and I'm happy to talk with you later. I actually have to go too, so I'll see you guys later. It was nice chatting with you guys. See you probably next week. Peace out.
Okay. Okay, I
Good
can
luck.
stick around for 5 minutes, guys. So,
Why did he get muted?
There you go. I got mute. I didn't even say anything that time. I just got muted. Holy shit. Anyway, Creationist Cat, you've made a whole host of statements which I find to be massively objectionable, and also some of them are just blatantly false. For example, when you go ahead and factor in bias in relation to the criminal justice system, we find that black jurors are more biased towards blacks than white jurors and many other races and ethnic groups as well. You haven't actually addressed that at all, and I've addressed various other things that you've put as well. Also, as well,
You've addressed other things. Hold on.
Dude, you're literally, dude.
All right,
Dude, you're literally interrupting me as I'm trying to respond to the shit that you said. And also, if you don't believe me, look in general. There's a catalog of things in there. Every time you make a claim, I said, wait a minute, that's false. I have the evidence on that.
If this guy's not going to let me talk, I will go.
Well, you interrupted him and then like just said he's not
because
letting
I
you
wanted
talk.
to, because I needed to get him to clarify something. You said that there were a bunch of things that I had not addressed, and I hadn't even heard a word from you.
Yes,
He was mentioning the things you didn't address.
Yes,
I
posted
was literally
them
mentioning them when you interrupted him.
Yes, also I posted them in.
You mentioned one thing. You mentioned.
Well, I posted them in general as well because I was muted that entire time. I got muted.
This is what
about
you did.
5 or 6 words in, I forget. After you accused me of being a white supremacist along with Jared Taylor.
Because you
and
said
you're
something.
interrupting me now. All right, so I understand the stuffing may be something that you can't control, but you can definitely control.
I really don't care to have this conversation with you, asshole. Bye bye.
Can't someone just put a
What? Everyone's talking.
I'm a black guy, and I love to hear this conversation.
Okay, he just left the server. Just letting you know.
Can you guys hear me?
Why would you let that guy just ramblingly bitch gallop at him? You should
no, he didn't leave.
after a point, and then
Can you guys
yeah,
hear
okay,
me?
wait, he's back. Wait, can someone mute that gloomy guy? Why don't?
Yes,
okay,
I'll mute myself.
Why am I echoing right now?
That's not Gloomy. Gloomy's been muted for like 10 minutes.
Okay,
like you're just like screaming that Gloomy's like saying stuff while he's been muted.
Please,
and
you're
that guy's
wasting time. Waste of time. So if he has some points that he wants to raise with the cat guy, why don't you let him raise them, but one by one, instead of allowing him to gish gallop, right? He was just trying to shotgun like 50 points at him.
No, like he was posting them in the chat too, and like just ignored.
Obviously, the cat guy wanted to go point by point. That's beyond reasonable. Just let
because he actually like.
Okay. Yeah, well, look, guys, I'm back because I basically I turned Discord off and I turned it back on, and I'm automatically in this chat. So I'll say very quickly, he made a point and he said, and then he went on, like right after he made the point, he said, and you haven't even addressed that point. So he never even gave me a chance to even try, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean,
he was talking about in the chat also. Like, you ignored it right then too.
Why are you talking for him? It's a waste of time. Why don't you just let?
But you also ignored it there because like you went past that and then tried to like focus on other things, saying like, oh, like
why are you talking for it? Sep, do you have mods in here, Sep? Can you get a mute on that fucking idiot who's rambling?
He's already muted.
That's already been
Okay,
done.
thank God.
Yeah, I muted him.
Why don't you unmute the gloomy guy? Let him talk, and if he tries to shotgun the cat guy, just mute him again. But if he can go one point at a time.
Yeah, right. So I'm not shotgunning you, okay? If you don't believe me, if you don't believe that I've made these points and I'm just making shit up, you can go into general, just scroll up about maybe 10 minutes in, and you can see the